Good morning. Just packing up, getting out of the tent site, and we are heading off north. Now we have made a bit of a new plan I'll tell you about here in a little bit, but we're not going to be hiking as much of this section as we had originally planned. So anyway, just wanted to say good morning to get things started and kind of show you where our tent site was. And I'm on the trail right now, but this is the little creek that I was soaking in last night and we got our water from. Really nice. And it is a beautiful morning. Not sure what we're going to see today. Some background there. But we're only going to be going about 3.5 miles and then turn around to head back. Because as we've gone through, I gotta find the trail, as we've been talking about this over the, really weeks, we kind of evolved our thinking. I think I mentioned to you originally that I was gonna, try to do every mile of the trail, which of course I would if the trail was open. But then I thought, some of the sections that are closed, I might even just road walk or do a section trail that's nearby or something, so it all adds up. Well, the more I've been just talking to people, thinking about it, you read what the PCT says, they consider a through hike if you do all the open sections of the trail. And there's so many closed sections this year. So anyway, blah, blah, blah. What I've decided is that, at least for now, that these sections where you do like an out and back, have to hike all the way in 57 miles, which is what we're doing, what we were going to do here, and then all the way back out 57 miles. You're hiking these extra 57 miles over again, and it's just not what I want to do. And so there aren't very many sections like this. I think there are only 2 now that we'll end up doing this on. But I think what we're going to do is just hike halfway in, hike halfway out. Hike out then. And that will, mean we only covered half of the trail in that little section, but we've done the total miles. Does that make sense? So if this is 57 in, what is that, 28.5 miles? We'll do 28.5 miles in, 28.5 miles out, adds up to 57. I can sleep at night having done that. Now, if there was anything, crazy, like incredible that we didn't want to miss, like Goat Rocks, which we did. We hiked through that whole thing because we wanted to see that. Here, we're going to do the total miles, but, we're only going halfway in, but we get to see Glacier Peak. That was kind of the big thing. So, anyway, effectively what that means is we've gone far enough that we're going to go about 3.5 miles this morning and we'll be at our halfway mark. We're going to turn around and start hiking out. And so we'll get out a couple of days early. And when we get down to Cascade Locks, just remember that name for the future. You'll hear me say the similar thing again, hiking halfway in, halfway out. All right, I'm gonna get hiking faster. Well, there is Skykomish Peak, and this is our halfway point coming in, so that means we're going to turn around and head back the way we came, right up there. And when we get back, we will have done the full mileage of this section. Well, we've periodically been seeing Rainier for quite a long time now. And yeah, there it is again. So this is our last time on this little section. I don't know if we'll be able to see it when we get further north, probably. So we shall see. All right, we're heading back and we're just going by the stream where I soaked my foot at last night. Now we're going by the tent site where we stayed last night. Look at all those blueberries, early blueberries. I know I don't video these very often, but really for weeks on end. I mean, from all through Oregon and Washington, they're just everywhere all the time, pretty much. And if they're not there, they'll be there in 10 minutes, you know. So these things that you're seeing now are the early blueberries, but there's also just tons of huckleberries everywhere as well. So those are the early blueberries. And I don't know, I'm not seeing any huckleberries now, but man, they sure are delicious. And we don't usually stop and snack on them that much because you just have to get places, but every once in a while I'll walk by and just snag one. And if you need a quick break, stop and grab 10 or 15. Lots of big, beautiful mountains. It's a cool one back there, that peak. And last but not least, Glacier Peak. We came through here yesterday. I didn't video anything. It'll be nice to have something new to video on the way back. But this boulder field is amazing. These boulders are massive. They're the size of cars and buses and houses, and they are plentiful. I thought it might be cool to see a little bit of this. Just hope if none of them decide to fall now, because you know they all came from up there at one point. If you listen closely, you might even hear a pika. I think they're called pikas. Like a big mouse. And they just make the sounds just like a bird. They go meep, meep. Maybe higher pitch than that. Well, 3 days ago, it snowed. We had a high of around 34. And today, right this minute, in the shade, it's 87 degrees. Whew. I love Washington. Good morning. Just getting ready to get going. Tried to get up just a little early today. So we've got about a little less than 10 miles to get into town and get on with our next leg. So off we go. It was such a nice night last night. Just cool enough, but not so cold that we were cold. Nice to be back to that. I slept much better. And I can't remember if I mentioned this before or not, but the other thing is, I use some of my clothes and stuff them into my stuff sack for a pillow. And, whew, look at that, nice creek we crossed the other day. Anyway, when it's so cold, I don't really have a pillow because I'm wearing all my clothes. So I had a pillow again last night. It was very nice. There's Lake Valhalla. we stayed at our first night out here. We were heading north. We get to get one more beautiful view of it. Maybe a couple beautiful views before we head into town. The snow-covered peaks in the background. We're on the last 1.5-mile stretch, which is just kind of like a park trail going into Stevens Pass. And I've been picking some blueberries and huckleberries to put on our pancakes whenever we get breakfast again. I'm hoping there is a restaurant there and it's open today, but I don't know if they serve breakfast, so maybe we'll be able to get that. Maybe we won't have time, maybe we'll have to save them for tomorrow, but anyway, we're almost there, almost done with this section, and then we've got a little jumping around to do. We're gonna have to get in here and we have to take a bus that'll take us to Leavenworth, which is this cute little Bavarian town apparently, or it could take us to Wenatchee, which is where we're actually going to stay tonight. We'd like to go to Leavenworth just to enjoy that little town for the afternoon, or just for an hour or two. But then we're not sure that there's any way to get to Wenatchee, so we have to figure that all out. Then once we do that, tomorrow while we're in Wenatchee, we'll have to figure out the whole bus schedule, because there are all these little towns out here, and somehow there's bus service between some of them, and we've got to get to Lake Chelan, because apparently the only way to get to the town of Stehekin, which is where the PCT is now, that's the next spot north that it's open. The only way to get there is either to hike in, or, which is a long hike, and you can't do that because of fire closure, or to go to Lake Chelan and take a ferry in. And apparently there are multiple ferries, and they cost different amounts depending on the speed. So you can take like a ferry that takes like 4 hours, and then you can take one that's like 90 minutes maybe, or something like that. I mean, this is all hearsay, so we have to figure this out. And we have to figure out all these schedules so that we don't go from one town to the next and then have to spend a whole day there waiting to catch the next bus or the next ferry or the next thing. So hopefully we'll get it all together, and soon we can just go from town to town to town to ferry, and boom, we're on the trail. Alright, so we've been here at Stevens Pass for an hour. Picked up our box again and just had a little snack, waiting on the bus. Right over there is where we came from, north, a few days ago. We came in, we stayed at or didn't stay, but we went into the lodge just right up there, and, got our box and hung out and all that. And then took off down this little ramp over there, the little bridge, and went down past these buildings and past that green roof down there, and went off that direction. So that's where we've been the last few days, down there. Then we turned around and came back, went back up there. That's where we had our snack and all that, and we're waiting for the bus. And when the bus comes, we're gonna head east to the town of Leavenworth and then Wenatchee. And we were hoping fairly quickly to get shuttled to Lake Chelan, and we just realized it's going to be Labor Day, so we're not sure we're going to be able to do that. We might have to have another day off. So anyway, we're going to try to figure it out. But in the meantime, we got this beautiful area to enjoy. This is the town of Leavenworth, Washington. Little Bavarian town. We ate in the soup cellar down there. Can't really see. There's just a door and a little sign that says soup cellar. Had some ice cream. Looked at neat shops. All sorts of stuff they have out here. And settled in the mountains. So we're going to just hang out a short bit longer and get our backpacks and head on the bus to Wenatchee. Well, this is our last day in Wenatchee before we wake up tomorrow morning and head out on the bus to Lake Chelan, catch a ferry, 2.5-hour ferry up to Stehekin. This is a mountain town that you can only get to by ferry. And then by noonish tomorrow, we should be on the trail. Back on the trail, heading to Canada. This will be our last stint. We'll have about 5 days. In about 5 days, we will be in Canada at the northern terminus of the PCT. All right, it's almost 7 a.m. Waiting here at the bus stop. First leg of our venture to get back on trail. All right, stage 2. We got to the Lady of the Lake. Getting ready to get on the Lady Express up here on the ferry. And we will do a 2.5-hour ferry ride to the mountain town of Stehekin. All right, we got off the ferry just a little bit ago. Took that bus back there, about 8 miles up the road to what's called the High Bridge. You can't really see it back there. It's just a bridge in the road. And now we are on the trail. So here we go. Should be a straight shot to Canada for, 4.5 days or so. And then we go through all of our gymnastics to get back down to a certain point on the trail and start going south and trying to pick some things off. And we have realized there's no way we're going to manage to do like each piece perfectly. In fact, there's actually a little piece that just opened up south of us here that, we're not going to do it because it would be so many days and so much effort, and to get back here to go hike 10 or 20 miles, it's just going to be impossible, to do everything. But we are definitely going to go do the big pieces that have opened up in the States, and that's going to be enough work. I think our bus is going by down there again. You can't really see it, but anyway, so yeah, get to Canada and then we'll turn around, head south. Well, the temperatures have turned around. It is hot today. It's about 90 right now. Just taking off here from Stehekin. The good news, hopefully, is it's just under 90, and should be about as hot as it gets today. And we're climbing, so we should be getting into cooler temperatures eventually. I don't suspect it's going to be tremendously cooler, but anything cooler is cooler. So we're hoping for that. And it's supposed to be hotter the next few days, well into the 90s. So we're hoping we get up at those higher elevations and maybe it won't be that hot. So we've got our coolest day of the week to climb right now. We've got 5,000 feet to climb, which is a lot. I don't remember the last time we climbed 5,000 feet all at once. And then once we do that, we'll have 2 or 3 more climbs before we get to Canada that are kind of like what we did coming out of Snoqualmie Pass. If you remember that a week and a half ago or whatever, where we did like 3,000 up, 3,000 down, 3,000 up, 3,000 down. And they'll be just slightly less than that, but pretty much the same. And if you remember, back in California, coming out of the Sierras and going through Tuolumne and Yosemite and all that, stuff into Sierra City, I kept saying, well, we're down to, this is the last time we'll be at 9,000 feet on this trail. This is the last time we'll be at 8,000 feet on the whole trail until have to flip down and do San Jacinto down in the Southern California area. And then I said, this is the last time we'll be at 7,000 feet until Northern Washington. Well, that's what we're going to be doing right now. So as we climb today, should be climbing to just about 7,000 feet. And then these, 2,000 and 3,000 drops and rises and drops and rises we do over the next few days will get us back to 7,000 feet a couple times. So this will be the last time we hit 7,000 feet anywhere on the trail until get down to the desert and have to do San Jacinto. Well, the good news is that about 30 minutes after we started, temperature dropped about 5 degrees, so that's good. And I just looked down, we've been going now for an hour or whatever, and it looks like it's maybe dropped another 5, so we're down to about 80-ish, so that's great. It's still warm though. And you know, we've been in the sun quite a bit. Now we've got some shade, which is really nice. Oh, speaking of, got another haircut. Whew, that's about as short as it's ever been. Just buzzed with a number 2. So, pretty sure I've never cut it that short before, but I just thought I don't want to mess with it, so got it all cut off. Another piece of information. You know, I had kind of maybe not looked closely enough, but had thought we were going to be doing some pretty steep climbing for all these 5,000 feet. When I looked at the map and realized this 5,000 feet is over about 25 miles, which is like more than a whole day's worth of hiking for us. So it's not going to be bad. We'll be going up mostly, but it'll be, you know, over long distance. So really, that's quite nice. It'll be, you know, fairly level. So we'll not get to the top of it before tonight for sure. We'll just, you know, get halfway up or something, find a good place to tent and finish it tomorrow. Well, we've been hiking for about 3 hours. We're finally kind of getting out of the hills and into the mountains again. Takes a little while to get up from the floor, but we're getting up there. Here's a couple of nice sized maple trees. Not the biggest that we've seen, but still some good examples. Beautiful, huge, clear river that we're coming down to. Hopefully we'll get, oh, I see a bridge down there, like a cable bridge or something, so maybe we'll be able to get down to it and not have to get in it. I think that's a bridge down there. Yep.